Hello and welcome to another episode of Broker Than You. I'm the best podcast host in the universe, Steve Cully. I have to thank our sponsors at Procyon Partners. Procyon Partners, they specialize in wealth management, retirement planning, and employee benefits. Top 50 fastest growing companies in the nation. President Sean Rabinowitz, proud supporter of Husky Talk, and he's going to get me a Tesla. We also have Green Street Trust International, owned by Renell Jump. They specialize in strategic tax planning for businesses. They will do everything they can to save you money. They will get you a refund, or they will save you money on your taxes. To schedule your free strategic tax planning session, go to www.greenstreettrust.com. We also have Pete Finch and the Finch Law Firm. If you've suffered any type of personal injury, if you've been hit with a beam at a construction site, if your mother-in-law tried to run you over with her car, the Finch firm is for you. Pete has fought legal battles all over the state of Connecticut, and he will go to war for you. He is not scared of any insurance company and will get you the compensation you deserve. And finally, we have Fresh Fold Laundry Co. Fresh Fold is run by former UConn alum, Fresh himself, Ned Von Young. They are located in Carborough, North Carolina, just outside Chapel Hill. This is a state-of-the-art laundromat. You can schedule your machine online. They offer a subscription model, weekly or bi-weekly. They have incredible deals for any college student in the area. Fresh has gone out of his way to put together just such an incredible laundromat with specials and deals galore. So if you're in the Chapel Hill area, please check it out. And now finally, I get to see the man himself, Laban Marsh. It's been a while. Great to be back.
It's been too long. It is great to be back. And I'll tell you, I just posted something maybe yesterday about Mackenzie from 9 years ago.
Yes, I saw that.
She was doing gymnastics, but what was great is my grandmother, who since passed, commented, my mother-in-law commented, and Ned Von Young commented. I mean, Fresh, honestly, like we've been friends on Facebooks for over a decade.
He's awesome, man.
He is pure joy. Right. That dude is he's always positive. So I love him. I know he's going to do well with that. But, I wanted to first mention a big shout out to what is UConn's first three-peat team of the 2025 season. And that is the men's and women's track and field went out to Chicago and they took home this past weekend. Yeah. Big East championships for both the men and the women. That's a third straight year.
Amazing.
So Coach Beth has done an outstanding job taking over Coach Roy's role, and they are just dominating. And then I found out, and I did reach out to one of the sprinters who he finished second, but he ran a 6:78, which is the time I ran in the Big East. And it said that was the seventh fastest all time. And now it was a school record at one point. So that means I had the fastest time at one point, but now I'm down to 7, dude.
That's what happens. Records all get broken.
Records are made to be broken, but if I get out of the top 10 before I die, I will be very disappointed in myself. Yeah, I was telling my kids the other day, I think it was Lincoln, my 9-year-old. He's like, "You still have any records?" I'm like, "Well, I've got the high school record, 16-1. I don't know if that'll ever go anywhere." Yeah. But it is interesting because it makes you keep an eye on what people are doing. But I am thrilled about UConn's track program and what they've been doing. And they keep bringing in just strong people. But it all goes back to, that foundation of a university that is so sought after as far as not only the education, but the sports and athletics are just top notch.
They are. So, and they have the best facilities now.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
Incredible.
And I know Trisha Bailey, who has made big commitments to the track program, which is so huge to see. I think I came in, I had a red shirt as a freshman because I had shoulder surgery after the freshman football season. And so Trisha Bailey was, I think, a senior that year. And so, I mean, she's been out less than 30 years and has done so well for herself and felt the need, not even the need, but
No,
just
she
was
saved the
compelled to
program.
support the
Yeah.
track program. I mean, dude, there was a time not many years ago where we were fighting to keep the program alive.
Yeah.
So it was just great to see we've kind of turned that corner. I think we did lose cross country for the men or women, something like that. But to keep the men's and women's track program together, we are the beast of the East.
Yes.
And, it's not the Big East like when we ran against Miami and Virginia Tech and West Virginia.
So it's revamped for track still?
It is. Well, it's the same Big East. It's great for basketball, but even for track and field, it's
Creighton and
it's not
Butler.
that it's not as strong as like, dude, Miami, I ran against Santana Moss and McGahee and all these guys. So not that there's not NFL caliber athletes at DePaul and some Creighton and things, but it's just not the same Big East. It's in Chicago now, which I think was
that's
at DePaul.
where they had the tournament. Okay, wow.
Yeah. So and it used to be the Carrier Dome. I don't even know if they run track there anymore. Do you know? Do they run track at the Carrier Dome still?
Syracuse still has track.
Well, but do they? Well, I guess they would. Yeah. So I guess that's a facility.
Oh, are you saying if they have like the tournament?
Do they run it in the Carrier Dome now, or did they commit that to just football?
No,
because they even would. Do they still play basketball at the Carrier Dome?
Yes. Yep.
Or whatever it's called now. Okay, so they probably do still run track there.
Yeah, they do.
But of course, Syracuse isn't in the Big East, so that's not where they're going to host the Big East championships.
So I'm sure it's Duke or North Carolina or whatever.
But I am hoping, since the Chiefs couldn't pull off the three-peat, which I was afraid was an omen for Danny and the boys, it's like they've been playing a little bit better. They won last night. So I am hoping that by the time what is it this weekend, Thursday? Wait, no. When does the Big East next weekend?
The women start Saturday, and I think the men start next week.
Next week, okay. Yeah. And that's always, I don't care what you say. I mean, throughout the country, the Big East, and they say Big East hoops is down a little bit relative to the country, but still, it is so competitive, such a great environment at Madison Square Garden. I got to go to a game, the Knicks game, when Meg worked for Ernst & Young, so I got to get to Madison Square Garden at least once. But I would love to take my boys up to watch those Big East championship rounds. I mean, that is just some great basketball.
Oh, it's so much fun going to the tournament.
It's incredible. So I really hope they can put it together. Hopefully the track and field having a three-peat in the Big East will give the omen to the basketball team to win a national title for 3 straight times. But they are going to have their work cut out for them. And how it lines up, in the tournament, because I think they're getting in as the 8 or 9 seed, something like that.
Not in the tournament, but
well,
are you talking about the NCAA tournament?
Big East.
Oh,
well, Big East, they might even be. They're higher than that, probably. But dude, they were out of top 25, and St. John's is making a solid run.
Joe D said it's probably gonna be St. John's, UConn, and Creighton that get in.
Okay. But when you think about, and I like coaching, and I know you and JY, it was great watching you guys talking about the coaching. And when JY talked about the culture, I think Jimmy Moore is bringing that back. But look at Rick Pitino, bro. Did you see him wearing a white suit the other day?
Dude,
like,
he's just,
how many people can pull off a white suit? We're not even, it's what, Labor Day to Memorial Day, technically, for white.
Rick Pitino can wear whatever the hell he wants.
100%. I mean, that is impressive. So good for them. But I mean, dude, coaching matters, dude. Coaching matters at every level.
Buried. You know that? He was dead and buried. He went over and coached overseas in like Greece and did well. He was out of the college game for several years, and then he got the job at Iona. And
that's right. Yeah.
He brought Iona to the tournament, and I think 2 years he did very well. And then he got back to the big time. He got back to St. John's, and wow, in 2 years there. But it's his philosophy. Basically, I'm going to take the best guys. I'm going to take transfers, and I'm just going to let them know, like, I'll do everything I can to get you to the next level. I have a track record of guys going to the NBA, and he understands guys are only going to be there a year.
Yeah, and but like
he's brought guys in. Great talent.
And I know Calipari used to do that with the one and dones. And I think who just told me that for basketball, these guys get 6 years now? Is there any truth to that? Did you hear the NCAA guys are getting 6 years of eligibility now?
No, I didn't hear that.
Okay,
I'll look it up.
I can't remember who told me that. And again, I know the whole recruiting side has changed. Like they're looking in the portal and not even at high school guys. So,
they did say that if you go to a JUCO, those years don't count.
Okay, so you'll get a fresh 4.
Yes, because the argument was if you go to a junior college and you don't have an opportunity for an NIL deal, they want to maximize their 4 years at the bigger school if they go.
Yeah.
So that's I think that's crazy, but that's what they agreed on.
Well, and even going to Patino with playing with the best guy. I mean, there is something as a coach, you have to have that. You got to bring that cohesion of talent. I mean, I think more talented kids are more challenging to create that cohesion because they're so much ego driven. And I think that's what Danny's always been great about. Man, I was thrilled to see Caravan finally hit a 3 at the end too. He's had a rough year. Honestly, if Caravan can go on a run through the Big East and into the tournament, and not that we only rely, and we say we, but not that they only rely on him, but he was the one who had the experience coming back from those 2 championships, and they're leaning on guys like Ball. Sampson had a great game the other night. McNeely. Dude, he's a solid freshman. I mean, for sure. So I just love how tenacious they play. And if you don't, Danny's getting you out. You know what I mean?
They've won like 4 or 5 straight, and that's great going into the tournament. The St. John's game was a tough loss, but they're just good, and they were playing them at home. And Joe D made it. He thinks that they could absolutely go on a run and win the Big East tournament. He expects them to win 2 games, and if they can win 2 games, he thinks they'll be an 8 seed. He said even if they win the Big East tournament, he still thinks they'll be a 8 or a 7 tops, which I was shocked at.
For the national tournament.
Yeah, for the NCAA.
Yeah, and that's what I was talking about. I thought they might be I saw that they might be an 8 or a 9, but it definitely solidified them with that win the other night.
Yes, they should be okay. But I mean, we have such great athletic programs, and I just read an article that we have the highest applications that came in of all time.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. And listen, dude, I don't care what you say. I don't care what sport you're in, what town, even at a high school level, everybody wants to be a part of a winning program.
Yeah.
I don't care what you say. They absolutely do.
That draws kids in. Kids want to be a part of that too.
Yeah. 100%.
Kids want to go to the games and everything. So they've really done a nice job. And I do give Phil credit for that in the president's office, because he's definitely been trying to make some changes.
And listen, a lot of what you're doing, it's connecting alumni that can start feeding proper people. Like we talked about Callie Knott, right? She just graduated from UConn. And I remember when I talked to Coach Greg Roy, we had a really good guy at McDowell. And when I said to Coach Roy, hey, I got a 16-foot vaulter, he's like, I don't need guys. I need some girls. And then 3 or 4 years later, Coach Sanford, Coach Callie Knott, I helped with coaching her, got her an opportunity to be recruited. Yes. And she put it together. She won, 3 Big East titles, 2 silvers and a bronze or something before she graduated. So I think that's where when you, and for me, anytime you give a referral, you hope they come through. And for Callie to go up there and perform like that, it's like that gives then me some credibility to where it's like, I can see a good athlete. I can see the potential. And we want that at UConn. Like we want to keep building that program. And not to mention, so Callie graduated and the UConn women pole vaulters went 1, 2, 3. So, and this is where I remember Coach Rapone used to say, hey, listen,
Next
if you're injured, exactly. Like I don't care what your last name is. I don't care what you've done. What have you done for me lately? Because somebody is ready to step in. And I don't think they jumped as high as Callie would have or did. But still, I mean, when you're in that type of performance, it doesn't necessarily how high you jump on that day. If a win's a win's a win. So, and again, it just keeps building up that energy of just winning. You're in a winning environment, and that makes such a difference, not only in athletics, but especially in business. And so and we're getting to the point. I'm going to come on next week and we'll talk about a new listing that I have coming up.
Yes.
And well, I was going to talk about it tonight, but honestly, yesterday we've been having mid 50 temperatures, and it went down to the 20s, and we got like 2 or 3 inches of snow last night. It is
my God.
Crazy. So we're trying to get outdoors because Monday started
here.
Were you?
Yeah.
So it's supposed to warm up next week, but I got to get our pits outside. Like the outdoor season officially started on Monday. And luckily we have a facility near us that's an indoor facility.
An indoor place, right?
But that's done. Last night was the last night that they offer it open to the public. And I can't build a facility fast enough. So if anybody in the Erie area has anything with like 25-foot ceilings, at least 120 feet long, 40 feet wide, let's talk.
Well, you got to do what Razul's doing. Razul's got the big fundraiser dinner. He's trying to raise some capital. Yeah, get a fundraiser dinner going.
Listen, the capital I would need to build what I want, my brother Levi is putting 7-8 figures on it. I think we could do it for 6, but that's another day.
You could do it for 6. I think
with the right people and depending on what you do. I mean, that's the thing. It's, you have to in business look at, hey, this sounds like a great idea, but is it profitable?
Right.
And honestly, we've talked about it before. There's so many times a lot of sports facilities start off as like nonprofits. Do you know what I mean? Right. Just because it can help with the cost and so many different factors. But no, we need more facilities to accommodate, because 8-9 months out of the year, we're indoors, whether it's the rain, the snow, the cold temperatures. And actually, I'm going to give a shout out. There's a local, and you probably heard of him, but Mercyhurst University, who has played hockey against UConn.
Mercyhurst?
Mercyhurst. It used to be Mercyhurst College, and I want to say 3 years ago it turned to Mercyhurst University, but they
moved up, right?
And they're Division I now.
Yes.
So, one of my buddies, Mike Palmer, is he's a McDowell guy. He actually helped me with my block start. I give him credit for my speed, at least on the front end there. But he's the new head coach, and they're going to have some scholarships and some opportunities. My hope, though, and he recognizes it, right? Their season ends in like May. Well, we can still have bad weather in May. And so if Mercyhurst decides to build a nice indoor facility, that is going to start. Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's in the city of Erie. Oh, it's we've got Gannon, Mercyhurst, Edinburgh University.
Edinburgh's there too. Okay.
Yeah, so we're sitting right in the middle of it. So there's a ton of, and that's where they actually call Erie Eds and Meds. We have a number of hospitals, a number of educational, universities, but it's just one of those things where we have no natural disasters. So it's great, but we get so much snow and the cold weather, and it can last into April and sometimes start as early as September. So if Mercyhurst University were to really build something, and Edinburgh tried, but their dome is just, it's not properly acclimated for this weather. Like, we need a nice heated indoor facility. And again, you do something like that, and Mercyhurst will start attracting some of the top performing, track and field kids. So you know how it is. And at these universities anymore, the facilities are
Mercyhurst is private though, right? They're private.
Yes, it's a private Catholic or Jesuit. Catholic.
They're Jesuits, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Sam, we had Sam talked about that in Florida being such a big issue because they have to have proper roofing and windows with all the hurricane stuff. And that escalates the costs big time.
Well, and honestly, we have snow load issues. Like,
I know there's places that collapsed.
there's a dome right after it had changed hands, not the Edinburgh Dome, but a local. It's now Lake Erie College of Medicine's sports Center, I think, and it's been changed. There's hockey and some basketball and volleyball, but they had a dome for soccer, and that collapsed. And of course, insurance might help cover it, but the cost to rebuild it, after the fact. So I think they've got it right now. But Erie really is such a great location because we're in between Cleveland, Buffalo, and in fact, JY's from Toronto. Like, it's a 2-hour drive. Meg and I have flown out of Toronto.
Far. Okay.
No, 2.5 hour, drive.
Well, he's not in Toronto. He's not in Toronto anymore.
No, he's at like 30 minutes. He said
Winnipeg.
Does he live in Winnipeg though? I thought he still lived outside of Toronto. Oh, okay.
No, he lives in Winnipeg now.
Oh, that's a bit further.
Yes, he likes it there.
That's good.
He loved Toronto, but
Toronto's a great city.
Winnipeg, they really upgraded their facilities, and I'm telling you, he's going to be a head coach up there in no time.
In no time, 100%.
Amazing that he has come so far. He started as a position coach. And he did really well, and he had a really good DC that kind of mentored him. And then the DC retired. He stepped right in, and this was his first year, and he had the best defense. Grey Cup. Yeah, best defense. Yeah, he had the best defense in the league, and they went to the Grey Cup. So
and he was always a great motivator too. You know what I mean? But that's what I'm saying. It's the same thing, like, as a coach, especially a coach that played, like Danny Hurley. He went to Seton Hall, but he was a good ball player. Like,
100%.
I don't care what you say. I mean, the guys that have been in the trenches before and know, how they've been coached and how they wanted to be coached, and that usually reflects in what they're doing. But
I
being
respect
able to bring
the coaches
it together,
that played much more than the guys that didn't.
Well, look at Randy Edsel threw one pass as a quarterback, and it was an interception return for like 45 yards, bro. So is he 1 for 1? Or is he 0 for 1? You know what I mean? Like, dude, come on, bro. Yeah. All right. Enough on beating on Randall. But JY was exactly right. If anybody watches that interview, I mean, I was sad. I didn't know that he not only didn't help him with a pro day.
Oh, my God, you screwed the pro day.
Because JY and I, with Skip, after our sophomore season, that's when we both ran I ran a 4.32. Yes. I had a 40.5-inch vertical. He ran a 4.3. And in fact, I think that's when, just because Randy came in right after that in January or whatever, and he had commented about how he said both JY and I had really good numbers that would do well, in a combine. But then, like, as he got to know us, he just it was weird, bro. It was
not being able to work out in the weight room, that cracked me up. Like, really?
These are power trips, dude. Like, people that do this are it's straight power trip. And you know what they're gonna say is that, well, that's the policy. But listen, somebody of actually magnitude and influence, they're going to trump any policy and bureaucracy any day of the week. I know guys that do it. They find a way to make it happen. And again, they're not obstructionists, because what I always thought of Randy is the reason he didn't want to help anybody else out is that would make them better than him. Like, people that hold others back drives me nuts. If you're not doing things to help athletes and people below you flourish, shame on you. Get out of the business. Stop taking a paycheck.
Well, I talked about that season because I always felt you guys had so many people returning in '99. I thought Hoffman was a very good quarterback.
He was a great quarterback.
I thought that we could have gone on a run and had a great year with everyone we had. And everything got changed so much. Hoffman was seeing a sports psychologist because they kept screwing with him. And it was a mess. And it was just like he just wanted to get that year over with so he could get everyone out and bring in his own guys.
The only thing he said to me, and I don't remember what I don't know, because as a freshman, I led the team with interceptions. And he would say, I don't care what you did when Skip was here.
Yeah.
It's like, what are you talking about? Dude, did you not watch any film at all?
I don't think he did.
You don't understand he didn't care. Of course he didn't. And to JY's point, like, I own a business now. Like, I bought an office that had an agent and a couple other agents, and it is tough when you acquire something if it's not built by you.
Sure.
I can understand, but, like, dude, you talk about throwing out the baby with the bathwater. It was ridiculous. The amount of talent, to your point, that we had. These are all guys that were 1A options that decided to go 1AA for the growth and opportunity. And just as they're about to peak and we're going 1A, he cuts them at the knees as fifth-year seniors and says, you were here for your education. You know, we all know how it goes.
There was a record.
Academics first, sports second. I mean, it was, you just knew it, right? There was a
record number of fifth-year guys he didn't bring back, which I just didn't, I didn't get that. I mean, I understand he wanted those scholarships to bring in his own guys.
Yeah.
But you had so much talent and
fill in the gaps. Yeah. Fill in the gap. But it's again, it's that ego thing. He wanted to call it his.
Yes.
He didn't want to be able to give, if we were good again in 99, it might have been because of Skip Holtz. It was because of Skip Holtz.
People would have said it was his team, yes.
But it would have been a much better startup for him heading into the 21st
100%.
century to be a more fluid transition. But the way he just, and
he admitted it too when I interviewed him. He said he came in like Tom Coughlin, and he wasn't himself. He tried to be somebody else, and then as it went on, he realized that I have to do it my way and take little bits and pieces from everyone that I've worked for and be myself. I've developed my own philosophy and strategy.
Well, and he definitely put a fire in a couple of our bellies. And again, like I worked for a real estate broker once where it's like, okay, I'm just going to do everything the opposite of what he does. And that's what Randy was. It's like, he's the coach that, okay, if he did that to me, I would never do that to somebody else. You know what I mean?
Yes,
where you use that experience and go the exact opposite. But again, it's like I as a coach now, I want to see every single one of my kids flourish.
Absolutely.
And I think that, but part of that, going back to the coaching and former athletes, like I worked my tail off to where I don't need it anymore. Like, let everybody else be successful. I had success, thankfully, but I made the most of it. So if I see somebody willing to put that work in, the extra time, how could you ever do anything but try to elevate them even more when you see them doing it? So I just can't even understand people trying to sabotage other potential opportunities. It doesn't matter how high they'll get. Did you help them up or were you knocking them down? And it just, man, we need more encouragement out of coaches. And I don't care if it's third and fourth grade basketball, because last week, man, we had a doubleheader and I was about losing it with these third and fourth graders that do not listen. But I got 18-year-old kids that don't listen too.
Schumann coaches his son in rec league basketball, and he got thrown out of the game the other week. It was Sunday. Funniest thing I ever heard.
Was he coaching or a parent?
No, he was coaching.
He's coaching. Yeah.
But it's just this rec league that they do. And
they're all just rec leagues, bro.
They never keep score. They never like keep track of fouls. This was the last game of the year. And they're keeping score. They're keeping track of fouls. His son fouled out, and he tried to explain to his son, like, listen, you can't foul again. You're going to foul out. He had 4 fouls. He's young. He doesn't understand.
No.
And they've never tracked it. He gets another foul and it gets thrown out. And he's crying. And Dave's like, what are we doing here? Nobody's ever counted fouls. And he got into it with the ref. Gone.
What? Listen,
he got out of the sixth grade rec league.
Yeah. Oh, sixth grade. Okay. Third and fourth is absolutely unacceptable. Sixth grade is when it starts getting a little more serious. Both of my brothers coached 6th, 7th, and 8th grade basketball. That's too high for me to get into. That's too high of a level. But dude, I remember the first time I walked in my brother Lucas's game, and we know a lot of the refs. My brother Levi's now a ref, but we walked in, and within 30 seconds, Lucas was actually coaching his daughter. It was a girls' team. Dude, Lucas gets teed up.
You got
I don't remember what he said.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, and part of it's, it is funny, but the passion, the passion overflows a little bit. But 6th grade, all right, you can get ejected. If you got people getting ejected from 3rd, 4th, 5th grade games, we got issues. And I know that happens, but it just, I would never let, and thankfully I've got great parents that the kids, their parents are great and they really trust and respect, me and the time we put into it. But man, I watch and we'll coach some kids, some opponents. And I'm just like, man, somebody needs a good whooping. That's what happened. Right.
Yeah.
The belt, baby, the belt. Kids don't know about the belt these days.
I hope that we can get some track people on. We try to reach out to them. That'd be fun.
I'm going to.
Them on, for sure.
I don't. Now that Callie's gone, I don't have my in per se, but with social media, I don't know if they just think, I'm reaching out on Instagram and they're probably like, who is this old dude trying to relive his glory days? I do not want to talk to them.
Send them links to the show so they see it's real and all that.
There you go. That's what I'll have to do.
But you got quite a few questions.
Let's talk real estate.
People. Yeah.
And I don't know where we went, but next week, we'll talk a little bit. Oh, that's where we went into the weather, how bad the weather got. But it's supposed to be in the mid 50s, so I want to get this house on the market. It's in the city of Erie, a 3-bed, 1-bath, totally renovated, and it's walking distance to Erie High School. So really good location. I'll bring you more information about it next week.
The biggest question that like 10 people asked was because I know it's different in every area, but and I think I even talked with you about this last night. Is it considered right now? Would you say it's a buyer's or a seller's market?
It's still a seller's market, and that's due to inventory. Right now, the interest rates, they're talking about bringing them down a little bit, which is all. But see,
Rajul said they're high.
They are still high, relatively speaking. I mean, anybody that bought in the last 10 years that's under 5% is going to be really hard to be talked into buying something. We've talked about that before. Yeah. But because inventory is so low, and that's where, like, the home that I have, I was going to put up when the weather got nice earlier in the week, but then looking at the forecast, and people are still out there looking, but it is so much of a more pleasant experience when you're not almost slipping on the driveway and different things. And I tell sellers all the time, it's still good to sell a home in the winter because of low inventory. And that's why I want to list it in March. If you wait till April or even May, that's when, you know what I mean, they start to have a lot more homes coming on the market where you can get lost in the shuffle. Not that it's going to be such a surge that we're going to, we still have 275 active listings. I think this morning is when I checked in Erie County for single family homes, not rentals. So we are so well below inventory right now that it is, and that's not to say buyers don't go out and look, and most people are looking online anyways. It just really means that as anything comes on the market, you have to have an agent that's willing to go out and show it within 24 hours. Because there's nothing more disappointing than what is it today? Thursday. If somebody says, hey, I want to look at this Saturday. Well, they got 5 offers between Thursday and Friday. And by Saturday at noon, the offers have already been presented and you haven't even looked at it. Right. So you really still, and knowing that tells me that it's still a seller's market. There's opportunities for buyers for sure, but you really have to come in and be diligent. You know what I mean? If you really like it, and I tell buyers all the time, I just don't want you to say you want it for a certain price, not make an offer, and then you find out it's sold for asking price or even below asking price, because the perception still is that you got to be at or above asking price. And that depends on how reasonable the seller is with their asking price. Right. Just because inventory is low, if I've got a home for 170, I can list it for 200, but people might look at it and then within a week it'll get saturated because it's overpriced and buyers know it. They will stop looking at it. And that's to the point where if you list it that high over asking price or over the market value, don't be afraid to make a major adjustment. And then you have that buyers are saying, well, what's wrong with it? Well, it's just priced too high, you know? And so that we started to see in the fall where prices were what I would say stabilizing. And that's just because every time a neighbor sells something for more than what this guy thought it would sell for, now they go and think they can list it for the same price or more. And that starts to really elevate those prices in certain neighborhoods. And we see this all the time because that's how the inventory starts to pick up, is when Joe Smith down the road sees what Sally sold for. Yes. And then he's like, well, man, if I can get that, I would list my home. And so that's usually what spurs inventory, especially in certain neighborhoods. There might not be anything on the market for a while, and then all of a sudden one sells, and within a tenth of a mile, everybody sees that sale and thinks, man, if that is, the current temperature of the market, and I know what I have, it might be worth selling it. So I'm hoping this spring market starts to bloom more listing opportunities so that buyers can have more options to choose from. You know what I mean?
You had a question from Jessica in Bell Valley, and
Okay, that's East Mill Creek.
She says she really enjoys the show. She appreciates everything that you do, and she is basically frustrated. She wants to know what your advice would be. She said that she has been trying to purchase a house. She's put out like 10 different offers on 10 different properties and hasn't gotten one. And she's very frustrated with the process. And she's hesitant to keep trying because she just isn't working out. So she was curious what you would say for advice on what she should do. Should she just keep at it or what?
Yeah, I mean, keep at it, but I think it's important to bounce how realistic your expectations are. Like when I meet with buyers, I like to find out like what homes have you been looking at, and then finding out, what they're pre-approved for, how much they feel comfortable with. And it's usually their monthly payment. Like in our area, you might spend and I've used this example, the city of Erie tends to have higher taxes than some of the suburbs. So you might be able to spend $150,000 in the city,
right,
and $180,000 in Mill Creek, and have the same monthly payment. Okay, because the city taxes are higher, even though it's a lower purchase price. Your fixed costs, like taxes, are a little bit higher there. So that's where when somebody says, "Well, I don't want to spend over $200,000." Okay, well, are you okay being in the city? Because you can buy probably more house, bigger house, nicer house in the city. But you're going to trade off. You might pay a little more in taxes, right? You might not have the same size. So depending on how realistic expectations are for, the square footage that she's looking for, amenities, how many bedrooms and bathrooms versus what you want to spend. Because as soon as you say, I want 3,000 square feet with 5 beds and 3 full baths for $180,000, it's like, bro, you are $300,000 off. So, you know what you mean?
If you're putting in an offer like that, I see what you're saying.
Well, but also understanding, there's one thing when the bank says, hey, you're pre-approved for this much. But a lot of times, then say you're pre-approved for $250,000. Well, you might have to look at 200,000 homes and bid up to 230, 235. You know what I mean?
Wow.
Like being pre-approved for 250 doesn't necessarily mean you look at 260. Like this is what used to happen is, I'm approved for 250. Let's look at 275s and I'll offer 250. It's like,
it doesn't work like that. It's not. You're not going to get it if you do it that way.
If Jessica is in Bell Valley and was educated through the Mill Creek school system, she will understand what I'm saying. But yeah, I would look at, kind of the expectations, maybe reach out if she's working with a buyer's agent, see if they have another, team member, just bounce off some ideas from other people or have her email me and, whatever.
Yeah. Cause I mean, could the agent that she's been working with, giving her bad advice and telling her that, you only need to pay this or offer this?
It happens all the time. I'll run into buyers and they're like, oh, I was willing to pay that, but my agent said it wasn't worth that. And I'm sitting here like, what are you talking about? You're saying that you were willing to pay a price and your agent thought they knew enough that they didn't want you to pay that much. So they didn't write the offer for you.
Because that's what I thought. I thought it would be the agent that's messing it up. If she's looked at 10 houses, 10 different offers, and the agent is obviously screwing it up. That was my thought.
And I think maybe that agent isn't experienced enough or confident enough to be honest with the buyer, because you're right. And what did the 10 offers look like? Are you at or above asking price? Because I had a guy.
She thought it was, she thought she was there. She thought it was at the asking price or competitive enough.
Yeah.
And that's what she was told by whoever's guiding her, the agent. And everyone, never was accepted.
Yeah.
So she's just like, so she said she was disillusioned with the process.
Yeah. See, and that's where, it's not a bad idea to get advice from somebody else. Do you know what I mean? And again, I'm not saying don't keep working with that agent. But I do sometimes worry, especially with the experienced agents that have been in for 30, 40 years and they know how it goes, so they say. The market has changed so much. New, young, aggressive agents can be just as successful as experienced agents. But again, like you kind of have to do what your client wants within the law. But when it comes to, hey, I'd like to offer full price. If there's an agent that says, oh, I don't know if this house is worth you offering, it's like, dude, get out of the way. If it doesn't appraise, then it's not worth it. But let the bank deal with that. And that's where I tell buyers, and it's not necessarily true, but if you're financing a home, it's hard to pay too much for a home because the appraisal process is going to come in and say, hey, I know you agreed to 330, but I'm getting comps where it's only worth 315. And now that seller may say, well, I'm not selling it at 315, and the deal doesn't come together. But if a seller really needs to sell, and even though they both agreed to 330, if it only appraised for 315, in theory, that's what the buyer's going to pay. Now, there are instances where, especially in the craziness of the last few years, where there are buyers who will agree to still pay 330, even if it appraises for 315, and they're going to have money in the bank because the bank is only going to finance based off of the 315, not off the purchase price.
Oh, so, okay.
I didn't mean to go too far down a rabbit's hole, but just in the idea that if a buyer has been told by their agent, oh, you don't want to offer that much, I'd look to talk to some other agents, because if you're willing to pay, you're comfortable with that monthly payment based on the taxes, the monthly payment, all that stuff. It's your home. You're living in it. Now, I might not pay that for it.
If she made 10 offers, is that basically you're going to the bank and you're getting financing 10 different times?
Nope. So the beauty is, and I had somebody do this, like I had a buyer that's actually going to close. It's supposed to close April 4th, but it'll probably close a little earlier because they've done a lot of their due diligence. And I don't want to lose my train of thought, because she was saying,
you can get financing once from the bank and just roll with it.
She went in and got pre-approved, and of course they run her credit. And so when you go into your credit, it's a ding to your credit. And so that was where she's like, well, I don't want to make another offer because I don't want them to. It's like, no, that's not how it works. Once you're pre-approved, the bank knows you're looking for financing. Even if you go to another lender, the credit bureau knows that, okay, you're clearly out looking for homes. We're not going to ding you again for running credit if you're going to finance with somebody else. But so that is a perception and something that, yes, they are going to do a hard pull on your credit to see if you're really credit worthy. But if you make 10 offers, it can be based on that same pre-approval. And that's where, like, you want to be, if you're approved for 300,000, you better not be making offers, on any home over 300,000. And that's where I'm talking about with expectations. And there might be some agents that don't even know what their clients are pre-approved for. Like, that's how out of touch some people are. Like, we do buyer consultations so that we can explain the process and alleviate the stress, because, like, I'll have buyers that say, can you just show me a home? And it's like, well, now we have to have in writing that I'm representing you as a buyer, like per the new law. But not only that, like, I don't want you to go through a home, absolutely fall in love with it, and then panic about what we do next. Well, not only that, but like, okay, I love it, I can't sleep tonight. Do we make an offer? And it's like, yeah, we can go to the office or, right here digitally make the offer. But you're not going to be more comfortable unless we sat down, explained to you that, hey, when you find the right home, we're going to sit, make the offer, we'll present it. We probably won't hear for a day, maybe two, depending on if it gets shopped. But you get a chance in the buyer consultation to go through all those what happens next, where buyers freak out, they can't sleep at night, then they freak, you know what I mean? So you really want to control the transaction as far as the emotions of your clients. But for anybody that's lost out on 10 homes, it can get frustrating, but it is definitely worth looking at your approach, because last year I had buyers who their agent had not I think I've told this story. The agent they'd been working with, they had made 6 offers. Didn't get any of them. And then that agent did not renew their license. And so they reached out to me because I've used them for different things. And I showed them a couple homes. We made one offer and it got accepted.
And it was done.
And I'm like, hey, I'm a sniper. No, but it's asking the right questions, setting expectations, having an understanding of the market, like myself and many experienced agents do, to be able to see, hey, this will fit what you're looking for based on what we've talked about, based on the homes we've seen. The other thing I tell buyers, because some look for 100% of the things they're looking for. If you find 70 to 75% of your list, say you have a list of 10, have to have it. If you find 7 of those, you better be making an offer. Yeah. Because if you're waiting for all 10 to be struck off your list, you're going to be, running a buyer's agent ragged. You have to be realistic to know that, yes, you want your dream home. But I know people that have built 6 or 7 homes and would still build and add something different on the 8th one. So, you know what I mean? I think that can be buyers' impediments is when they're in their own way because of their expectations. And it can be the fault of the agents. Yeah. Because the agents set them up and just give them unnecessary expectations of the market that they should know better.
You had a question from Brian in Wesleyville.
Yes, Iroquois Braves.
He wanted to know if his neighborhood, if a house is going to be foreclosed on, will that affect his property value?
That's a very good question. Yeah, that's a very good question. I would say
that really could happen. Like if the neighbor down the road forecloses, the property value in the neighborhood could go down.
Here's what happens when we talk about comparable sales, and even going back to like what my neighbor sold for. Like, let's say it's in a $150,000 neighborhood, and foreclosure means they stop paying their mortgage, right? So the bank's taking it back. Now, the problem with foreclosures that I tell buyers is that if their finances were falling apart, they might not have been taking great care of the home as well. So there's the concern. It's not like, hey, they had this pristine home and then all of a sudden they just couldn't pay their mortgage. They probably were having trouble with their gas and electric and, upkeep, like painting the exterior, interior. So it all starts to kind of fall apart, and the mortgage is the last one to go. So if you have a $150,000 neighborhood and now you've got and by the way, it takes a while for the foreclosure process.
Yeah,
like,
that's
you got to stop paying your mortgage. Yeah. But you know what I mean? Like, they stopped paying their mortgage for it to go into foreclosure like a year ago, 18 months ago, So with that, if that has been you think about the home not being maintained either for that long, it starts to take, and now somebody might be willing to pay $120 or $125. So now they're like, well, I thought this was a $150 neighborhood, right? Now, if you get somebody to come in, buy it for $125, and they fix it up to be worth $175, it can quickly be a benefit. But I can understand a buyer, an owner concerned, like, hey, we want to move in the next 12 months, and now I see this guy is going to foreclosure. It's a legitimate question, a potential concern, but I don't think just because one home on your block is going to foreclosure is going to bring your overall value down. But that's the sort of indicator that you want to start paying attention to, especially as an investor, right? Like, again, depending on the neighborhood, a foreclosure, and we're going to start seeing more of them. But because what happens is that mortgage payment that they committed to is going to stay whatever the interest rate was, provided it was a fixed rate. But what happens, and this is one of my bigger concerns, especially for the city, like if your taxes are $3,500 a year and now they're $4,500 a year, your mortgage payment is an extra $85 to $90. And so if you were having trouble covering it when taxes were reasonable and things like that, as those things go up, your payment gets reflected in that, in your escrow payment. And so that's what starts to lead to the foreclosures. And again, when you see foreclosures, it's usually because, or usually leads to not maintaining the home as well. And that's the concern. And that's how it can become blighted.
So, Lisa, who is in Erie, she wanted to know, she enjoys watching you, and you're very knowledgeable. What is the best way to check on a property value? Because I guess she looks online at like Zillow or whatever. Zillow's accurate?
I don't think Zillow's accurate, but I will tell you this. Anymore, the way data is being exchanged, they're not too far off, right? And I think that's where But it's not just the number Zillow gives you. I tell people all the time, I don't ever give a single price I give a price point. Because again, like, how motivated are you as a seller? Like, do you want this sold quickly, or do you want to try to hold out for top dollar, which might take a little bit longer? So I think I tell people this. In my price point of where to list or sell your home, if Zillow says $335, I'm going to probably tell you, hey, and I think of, if I put this on the market and wanted to get multiple offers, you're going to list it under market value. And if we're calling that 335, I would put my price point between 300 and 350. And then I always give the example of, especially in the summertime, like a waffle cone, right? Now, if you take a waffle cone with ice cream on it, you tip it upside down and the fine point is at the top. That is 350,000.
Oh, okay.
Okay, that's the top of the market. The bottom of the cone, where it's substantially larger, is 300,000. And that cone is representing the pool of buyers. Okay, so at the very top, you got one or two swimmers, right, for 350,000. Yeah. But at the bottom at 300, you've got 100 to 150 people ready to just pounce on it, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's where, if it sells for 335, that makes sense because it's the middle of the road. But from my perspective in trying to price homes for sellers, I like to give a price point. Plus, my mom always says, if you name them a price, you bought it. And what that means is, if I say, oh, yeah, this will sell for 335, and now every offer we get is 320, you better be willing to stroke a check for 335 if you were telling a seller 335.
Yeah.
So I don't ever like to put a price on it. And my brother Levi, a buyer asked him, well, what would you pay for it? And Levi's like, I wouldn't give you a nickel. I don't need a home like this. So it's like, a home is worth what a buyer's willing to pay. And what we as real estate agents are supposed to do is expose the property to the broadest number of buyers and prospects to get the deal done for the highest price in the shortest amount of time. Wow. On the buy side, I want to get you the best price, you know what I mean, for the best terms. And so bringing those two parties together, and usually with another agent who is cooperating and is knowledgeable, can make this process so much easier. But as far as pinning down a price, and here again, like, I've got a guy ready to list a home in the next couple of weeks. He wanted, I think I talked about this before, he wanted to remove the private mortgage insurance from his loan. And so he paid to have an appraisal done. And the appraisal, I want to say, came in at $210,000. So that had enough equity for him to remove his PMI. And like, this was 2 months ago. So he's like, well, what should I list the home at? And it's like, well, the bank says it's worth 210. Should I list it at like 200 or 210? I'm like, well, that's just the bank based on comparative numbers. Like, if we have a buyer that comes in here and needs a home like this, totally remodeled, great location, like, they might be willing to pay 220 and 225. And they're never going to see that appraisal that you did for your, you know what I mean? So I wouldn't sell yourself short. And not to mention, that was 2 months ago. And so it was the winter. They didn't have the same comparable data that they're going to have now with a few things closing. So just because, and then I've had people say, should I have an appraisal done? It's like, unless you're getting a divorce or, anything that's through attorneys, if you just need an estimate of value, you can have an agent do a comparative market analysis for you, and they should be willing to give you a price point, at least to give you some idea. And
is
then again,
price point a range, or is it an exact number?
No, I like to give it as a range, price point. And again, I go from the bottom being this would sell tomorrow for multiple offers, and the top being, hey, like, you aren't going to get any eyeballs on this. And so we also have a graph in our buyer and seller packets. It looks like a bullseye. And on the outside, it says, if you have buyers looking at your listing online, but no showings, and we can see how many people are looking at each home, you're probably 10 to 12% too high in your price. And then you come in one ring on the bullseye, and it says, if you have people driving by your house, right? Because I've had sellers say, hey, somebody just stopped and took your number down on the sign. Did they call? And I'm like, no, they might be working with somebody else. I didn't get a call. But they see somebody driving by. Well, that's probably like 6 to 8%. If you're not getting appointments, but somebody's driving by, you see people constantly stopping, they don't want to necessarily come in, your price too high. Now, if people are coming into your house, if they're coming into the house, but you're not getting any offers, you're probably 2 or 3% overpriced.
Right.
And the bullseye is not only are you getting appointments, because you didn't hire me to get you appointments, you hired me to get this house sold. So the bullseye is you're pricing it to where people are coming in, they're making offers that are acceptable to you. And again, that varies, but that gives you an idea of when you list your home and where you price it and that price range, how close is it to the bullseye? Because ultimately that's what a seller wants, right? And every seller's worried that, well, if I price it too high and I have to adjust the price, people are going to say what's wrong with it. And 99% of the time, what's wrong with it is that you priced it too high.
The price, right?
That was it.
That makes sense.
And that's where you have to have an agent that's knowledgeable and willing to negotiate and able to negotiate and communicate with the other agent, whoever it is, to try to get a deal done, right? And you have to keep confidentiality. But that's where when I work with buyers that are really strong buyers, they're willing to either waive inspection, they just know what they want. It's so much easier to find versus somebody that's kicking tires and not really sure. They say they want to buy something. And again, going back to, I think it was Jessica from Bell Valley, 10 offers. I'm not saying you're not motivated, but definitely check with your agent to see that you're doing everything you can possibly do to be putting your best foot forward with every offer. And if that means waiving an inspection and you can have your dad come through, you might have to do that. And again, I don't ever recommend that, but those are some of the things that we need to talk about if you're not getting offers,
It's funny because Razul had this question in Connecticut, and you actually got the same one in Stratania. You ever heard of it's
STERRETTAN? Yeah, Steratania. That's a road in Erie.
Oh,
that's an address. Maybe Steratania turns into Peninsula Drive.
Okay. Well,
STERENTTANIA, I believe is Steratania. Yeah.
I'm sorry. It's STERRETTANIA.
Yeah, that's the same Steratania. I'm just a bad speller, I guess.
It's by Fairview and McKean, I guess.
Okay. Yeah, Fairview, McCain. Yeah.
This was from Joanne. She said that she likes the show, and if a property is on the market for a long time, like a year, is that a red flag?
So again, as soon as I see that, I just think it's a seller that might not really be motivated, because there's no reason a home should sit on the market. And I think when we talked, I think it was Sam had somebody who he had gone through and talked to, and it's like, oh, dude, he just knew it was overpriced. Didn't matter who it was, nobody, or maybe it was Newsy, but either way, nobody was touching. The seller was so unrealistic. And then there's some where I've heard sellers say, well, nobody's made me an offer. So but their agent doesn't tell them to adjust the price. So they're just going to keep it sitting there. And I have some land right now. I actually just had a guy from Penelec reach out to me, which would be a great buyer. You get a utility company to buy some land. But he reached out to me in November, right before the big storms. And now he's serious about, potentially moving forward with something. But the seller, I think the listing expires in maybe April. The seller hasn't adjusted the price. We had a lot of interest early on in the fall, but sometimes with the winters and our listings sit saturated, especially with vacant land, right now, and interest rates for development. But it's just one of those things that depends on your seasonality, depends on your location and things. But it's
not necessarily a red flag.
No, and it might not be something structurally. Now that is an instance where it was actually Callie's parents. I was showing homes in Meadville, and man, I could not believe, I didn't even feel comfortable standing in the garage because of how the wall had fallen out. And I don't know how it didn't become an insurance claim, but they were basically just saying sell it as is. And when you look at it, it's like, oh man, great neighborhood, end of a cul-de-sac, and then you're like, here it is. And again, I don't know why the agents aren't more upfront about that stuff. Dude, you don't even want to, this had no bone. The bones were crippled.
It was not.
Awesome. Yeah, it did not have, it needed tore down. And unfortunately, somebody got tied into that and either didn't do their due diligence and do the inspection to realize that could happen. But yeah, that was one of those things where, you knew as soon as we walked through, it's like, yeah, this is why it will not sell.
Yeah.
So
it's funny because that leads into another question from Sue in Jefferson,
Ohio.
Is that?
It's just over the border.
Is there a Jefferson, PA? No. Okay.
I don't know.
She wanted to know what are some of the pros and cons of purchasing an older house. Because, like you just said, if you do buy one, you could have a lot of issues, right? Structurally, if it's older.
Yeah. So that's where, I have an old farmhouse, and I chuckle because I tell anybody that's buying an older home, and when you say older, I'm thinking earlier than 20, over 100 years old. Even now, the 20, we have homes that were really well built in the 20s and 30s that are rock solid. They're not going anywhere. Oh, 100%. They're in great shape. The challenge is when you go to renovate those for whatever reason, when you open, Pandora's box, if you will, you don't know what you're going to find. Right. And especially with older homes, you definitely want to correct it the right way. And back in the day, people would just do whatever they had to bandage things up. So whether it's, clay tile for the sewer, there's just so many different things, galvanized lines, lead pipes. So your water flow isn't as good, So there's definitely things where, and again, I love older homes. And what I worry about with newer homes is they don't have near the character. They don't have the same quality of wood. My dining room, I have a piece of a board that is about 48 inches wide. At one time, that was a part of a tree. The trees aren't grown big enough and to have boards that big anymore. So that's the beauty of some of the older homes. Same thing, hardwood floors. You go to homes built in the 60s and 70s in Erie, you'll have first and second floor hardwood. And now it was like an underlayment back in the day. Now it's a luxury to put hardwood floors into a lot of homes. Yes. But and a lot of people, it's great. I have the duplex, the very first duplex my wife and I bought had this old green shag carpet. And I was so new to the business, it didn't even occur to me. So we knew we wanted to get rid of the carpet. But as soon as we pulled out the carpet, gorgeous hardwood floors.
Really?
It was like I hit the lottery, dude. And so now in these older homes, I know where to go peel a corner. And again, if they have hardwood in the closet of the home, it's usually throughout the living room, but then you don't know what kind of animal, urine or whatever stains there might be. The home that I'm going to be bringing to market next week, I'm going to give a shout out to Express Wood locally. Man, they do a great job of refinishing wood floors. Very reasonable. But man, so the floors that I have coming out, and I'll show you the pictures, they look gorgeous. So to me, and I'm a hardwood floor guy, my wife and I in our old farmhouse, I installed Asian walnut throughout almost our kitchen, family room. I love hardwood floors.
Yeah, and floors.
Yeah, to me that is, I just
that's
love
better.
It,
it's better than carpeting. It's easier to manage than carpeting.
Yeah, it's cleaner. So, and we have 2 dogs and 2 cats, and so it's easier to clean and things like that. But yeah, and again, not to be worried about older homes, but I almost get to the point where even the vendors, good quality. I'm afraid we're losing guys that have the experience with some of the older homes that know the nuances of some of these older homes. But again, those that have been maintained well, man, you can't beat the character of a 12-inch baseboard of really nice wood throughout some of these homes. We've got what they call Millionaires Row on 6th Street, where a local philanthropist is putting money into, copper gutters and standing metal seam roofs. And so it reminds me a lot of Connecticut. That's what I loved about Connecticut, is that they used really good quality materials for their buildings, cedar roofs, slate roofs, all that sort of stuff. So no, I wouldn't be worried about an older home, but you definitely just as you renovate, know that what you're trying to fix might need a second thing fixed behind it. You know what I mean? It can bring surprises.
Do you currently have rentals still available?
Oh, yeah.
You
Yeah,
do.
we do.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure. And in fact, we had a tenant moving out at the end of February. It's got a third bedroom in the lower level that they use as an office, but this is a really quaint
Now, are you
ranch.
the landlord of it, or is it your company?
So this one I own with my brother Lucas under Marsh Brothers.
I got you.
Now, but everything that I own gets managed through Marsh & Marsh Real Estate Services
Right.
property management division. Yeah. So there's some that I personally own, others and Marcus manages this one for me as well. So,
he's awesome.
but as they come up, yeah, it really is. He's amazing at what he's doing, and he's brought on some help, and I'll have to introduce you to her at some point. But yeah, the property management side is growing. I think we brought on like 14 new units already in 2025 to manage. So we're up over 150 doors that we're managing. Yeah, it really is, because it proves to me that people outside of this area want to invest in this market. And so it really does bode well for the future of our real estate to have outside money coming in. And again,
consistently.
Yeah, well, and that's that type of residual. And again,
yes,
for our property management division, it really establishes our relationship with the future seller is how we look at it, and we treat it, because we have such a great group of vendors that help manage our properties as far as the maintenance of them, our HVAC guys, electricians, plumbers, all of that. That is what our service really provides to our clients, because a lot like the guy we have out in Vegas, he doesn't know, he could do a Google search and read some reviews, but if he reads me off a list of HVAC guys, I'm going to know everyone and tell him who's going to be more responsive, who's going to be more expensive, who's going to be more reasonable. And so I think that those relationships are what are so vital to this business. And yeah, I've got another general contractor that I've been talking to where I told him, I'm going to make a punch list of properties for him. And I anticipate 2025 being a very busy year for him. But he said he's willing to take it on. He's got young people. In fact, one of my former agents, he just recently he's a teacher, Jake D'Alessandro. I guess his son is getting into contracting and things. So we're going to try to get him doing some things, some handyman type work. And that's what I'm so excited. Like, I know that this young man is a hard worker because I know his parents. You know what I mean? I don't know how skillful he is in the trade, but my GC buddy says that, yep, he's competent enough to hang a handrail that I need at that place that I'm going to list. Little things that, yes, I can still do, but man, I don't have the time for it. And I would honestly, I'd rather pay somebody to do it because it's what he does every day. He enjoys doing. He's trying to build, a future for himself. And so that's where I think providing opportunities, and listen, if it doesn't go well, I just won't use them again. But if it goes great, it could be really big for future opportunities for both of us.
Because I actually told Razul that, because Razul really needs a personal assistant. And I said that you had explained that by getting a personal assistant, you may have to pay this, but you're going to be available and more efficient because of it. And you're going to be much more profitable because of it.
That's right.
That's what I told him. And he's like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. So he's going to take that leap and do it.
I think and what's great is because you have to look at the value of it, not the cost.
Yes.
Because it is going to cost you something, and the value may be freeing up your time, and then you got to be a better time manager of what you're doing. And it doesn't all have to be dollar productive activities. Some of it is marketing and getting yourself out there, going to different meetings, going to different community events, being seen, letting people know that if they have a home, for sale, reach out to me. I'd be happy to help you out. And again, whether I have a buyer for it, if I might buy it myself, just creating opportunities. And I've told people, sellers especially, like, you have to try to manifest anything you want to create. So start thinking about the things, even as a seller, like, think about the best buyer. One of the homes I had, a buyer wrote a letter and just said, hey, I have 2 daughters. And this seller had 2 daughters. Like, you can make those connections and really create that tug of the heartstrings, and it can make a difference. There's people that don't like the quote love letters from buyers, but my only point is for sellers to try to manifest and think about the positive, like, what do they want? And going back to being realistic, I'm not saying, hey, hope you get 50,000 over asking price. I'm saying try to find the right type of person you want to buy your home, because in residential sales, it is more emotional. And I tell people all the time, it's like, I know this is your personal residence, but we have to treat it as a commodity. Like, take your personal phone, and we talked about that before. The two easiest things to do: depersonalize and declutter. If you're selling anything, dude, you know what I mean?
Yeah, you can't.
So
have emotion.
Right. And again, you can have emotion, but make sure you have that balance to realistic expectations. And there's nothing worse than a seller saying no to an offer and then the next offer is worse. And we're not there yet with the market, but that's like the next stage, right? Is you list your home and you think you're going to get all these offers, and then the first offer you get, and we tell people that also, your first offer is typically your best offer. Not always.
Really?
Oh my gosh. Because that's the person that's been looking, been waiting, and they jump right on it. You know what I mean? The other thing I tell sellers when they, if you have showings and, hey, we've had 4 showings and no offers, and then they get an offer, right? And it's low. So they're like, well, this is a terrible offer. I said, don't be offended by this low offer. You should be more offended by the 4 people that looked at it and said it wasn't even worth making an offer.
Right.
You know what I mean? Understand what emotions you need to be having and dealing with here, because you want to work with somebody that's saying, okay, I'm not offering you what you're asking, but I'm telling you I want it. So then how good are you at negotiating? And I think that's where, both in pricing it and why I give a price range. You know what I mean? If you're at the bottom of their price range and the offer's coming in lower, it, again, makes it really tough to get that seller over that finish line. So you as an agent better be giving a proper price range and price point. Otherwise, the deal may never get done, and it is your fault as an agent.
Frank from Northeast asked an interesting question. He wanted to know if he was apparently he has a contract or whatever for a deal, but he found something else that he likes, and he wanted to know if it's possible to back out of his contract.
It depends on how far along he is
in the process.
Yeah, because I'll tell you something, and this is something some buyers or sellers don't realize. Like, contingencies, whether it's an inspection, which it usually is, financing, if they made an offer and it just got accepted, and let's say they have a 10-day due diligence period, as long as they elected an inspection, you pay for an inspection, have it done, and whatever that inspection points out, like, I rarely see a perfect inspection, right? And so that's where a buyer can have the inspection done. Whatever comes back on that inspection can be reason enough for the buyer to get out. They don't have to say it's because your gutters were detached. It doesn't have to be because you had a crack in your driveway. The buyer can just say, based on the home inspection, which I elected as a contingency, I paid for, here's the report, I no longer want to proceed with this deal. Here's my letter of termination and my request for the deposit back. So depending on how far along he is, they might be able to lean on one of the contingencies to get out of it. And then, listen, there's instances when you just have to be frank with the agent. If you're beyond your due diligence period and you want to get out, you could be in default. And if you have a good agent, the only thing you can lose is the deposit. Like, you can't be sued for non-performance for the whole purchase price. So that's where your deposit tends to keep you safe. But I would be curious to know, where is it? Frank in Northeast, the grape pickers. He might be on some vineyards. We got some really great grapes out that way. Yeah, a couple.
Well, I think it was basically because he found something else that he wanted more, and he wants to get out.
Yeah, and see, that brings a whole lot of other questions. When you make an offer, that should be the home you want. Like, why are you still looking for homes?
I don't know how it happened, how he found this other home.
I mean, especially think about what he's saying. We have so many people that are making 10 offers, you can't get them. This dude got an offer, and now he wants another one?
No, he wants to go to somewhere else.
That sounds a little greedy, bro. I'd be curious more about that one, because there is definitely legitimacy to that. And in fact, the closing I just had last Friday with a buyer, it was his third offer that we got. we had offered at and above asking price with escalation clauses and everything. And I showed up to the closing on Friday, and he's like, "Hey, I didn't expect to see you here." And I said, honestly, the reason I like to come to the closing and sit at the table is because I told you that we would sit at the closing table and you would be thankful for the homes that you didn't get. And he looked at me and says, "You did say that, and you were exactly right, because I love the home I'm buying, and I'm glad I didn't pay too much for that last one that we bid over at." So to me, and it's full circle, like I used to get dressed up in a suit and tie for closing day, right? And now it's so much more informal since the pandemic. We used to do round table closings, and then that's more of a PA thing. Different states are totally different. We still use attorneys at times, title closers, whatever else. But yeah, I like to go to the closings because, and this is a guy he owns a business. Like, this was not a big day for him. It wasn't like he was a first-time home buyer. But still, I mean, I think you need to continue to celebrate wins, and having a closing as a real estate agent, especially this time of year, it's worth celebrating. So
that's your party. Yes.
Yeah, so I think, again, you can get in the mix and just keep grinding and forget to celebrate even small wins, because it's hard to find a home right now. It's tough to negotiate deals, and for the agents that are out there doing it, congratulations, keep it up, because I've said it before, real estate transactions are the single greatest economic driver for every economy. It doesn't matter what community you're in. People that are buying and selling homes are buying furniture. They're using painters and carpets and all these different vendors, and they keep the community thriving. So let's get more listings out there, and call me if you need an agent.
All right, I'll give you one more question.
All right.
And this is from Stephanie in Erie, and you just brought this up. She wanted to know, should I buy during a seller's market?
Listen, if you're renting, absolutely. That's where it's like, I'd rather see you pay for a mortgage than pay your landlord. And I'm a landlord, and I'm not saying don't pay rent, because there's a time and place for everyone. Like, if you're transitional and you're not sure if you're going to be in Erie for the next, we usually tell people, if you're going to be here at least 5 years, it's probably worth buying a home. If you're going to be out in 2 or 3, it might not be worth all the closing costs, the down payment, and there's not a lot of volatility in our market, big ebb and flow, or big swings. But yes, the guy I just sold a home to, he got a great deal, relatively speaking. And that's where you really have to have knowledgeable agents. The agent who listed it was very good about pricing it. We offered at asking price, and we were able to get it. So when you list things at the right price and you have reasonable buyers, deals can still get done. And even though it is technically a seller's market still requires buyers. And so, again, depending on your lot in life and where you're at, I do feel like homes are going to continue to go up in value.
Yeah.
So, honestly, when I look at it, and especially in Erie, but what's happening is people are paying, like the guy just paid $425 for the home we closed last Friday. You would spend $600,000 at least to build the home he bought. So now that's not true in every market, right? Because there are markets where it's like, hey, if I can build brand new for less than what resale, I just want to build my own. We're not anywhere near that right now. And
Sam was talking about that too. He said just the price of materials and construction, and he mentioned the tariffs playing a factor in it.
Well, the permitting, the regulation required. You were talking about the hurricane windows. Like I know Sam was talking about. That's a different rated window than what we have to do to insulate a home. You know what I mean? So, those are the regional type factors. Obviously, the national economy has an effect on us. But I also can tell you that Erie's market was so suppressed between, honestly, like all the way up through, I would say, like 2015, early 2000s. You could get some really good deal. I bought homes for $50,000, $60,000. That rent for $1,200, $1,300. Now you're spent to find a home under $100,000, even in the city, is really hard to do. It's going to need work. But the homes that 3 years ago were selling for $130 are selling for $165, $170. And so, do I anticipate them selling for $200,000 in the next 5 years? I don't know, but again, you wouldn't be able to build these homes for $200,000 right now. So it's still going to depend on the supply and demand. Our city of Erie is we have an oversupply of housing stock, right? Yes. Meaning but a lot of the homes are blighted and could use either being demoed and created larger lots for the other homes. I think we could get rid of some of the blight and create more off-street parking opportunities. I'd love to see so that our plows can get through and be more efficient. So there's some things that I ran for office in 2018, and I know it's just too slow to get the things done that the private sector can get done. But I do wish there was more cooperation from municipal government and, private.
What was it? What did you run for? Comptroller or something?
No, I ran for state representative.
Oh, you did?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that was fun.
Well, like it was a congressman?
No. That was just a state rep, yeah. So it just it was
like local. Okay.
Well, it was
not a fun experience.
No, and
you have the personality for it, though. I would think you'd be good at it.
I wanted to step out of my comfort zone. I think I could have been good. It just I can't do it. Everything's too slow moving, too bureaucratic. That is
very,
and so I need to be able to. I said I need to have more influence on those types of people than I do to be a part of them. Because and the guy, when I was interviewed by the local newspaper, he says, "Hey, a lot of the stuff you're saying doesn't really fit your party's line." I'm like, yeah. Because I'm just common sense. Like the house should be slashed in half. These guys are making like $85,000 a year. We have 7 of them serving Erie County when you were on horse and buggy, I guess. It's like, bro, with telecommunication and the internet, we do not need 7 reps for this area. We got 1 or 2 that can handle it. Now, boom, cut that house in half. You're saving millions of dollars. And that was before Doge got started. So we won't get into that.
Right,
we'll save that for another week. We've got some people that can't handle it already.
Well,
but really, when you run a business, you're looking at all the efficiencies that you can find, and cutting out the fat should be a part of everybody's,
Doge,
process.
the program that they spent, millions of dollars on for circumcisions in Kenya, that just seemed a little much when I was reading some of the programs.
And you would think it's a joke, bro. But how does it even get started? Like, who is the person that proposes that initially? And who's in the room that's like,
that's it. Yeah. Let's do it. Let's send it.
I serve on boards, bro. And you have to say, yep, I second it. Yep, all in favor. Aye.
I know.
Who was in the room, bro? Let me see the minutes to those decisions. And again, I think that's the problem, is that they're just made by people in a back office.
Yeah. You gotta watch our political show, Rebel Republic.
Yeah. Oh, I know.
And Frank. It was hilarious. Because that's what we talked about.
You've asked me to be on. My brother Levi gets nervous. And listen, he'll tell you should ask him.
It's the worst thing you can do. You don't want to talk about.
I decided to run for office in 2018 while he was on vacation in Jamaica. Yeah. So no, I'm not kidding. He was like on a beach when the local Times News posted on Facebook. He screenshot Marsh announces running for state rep, and he's like, "Bro, I leave town, and what are you doing?" And I'm like, "Hey, I didn't realize I needed permission from my younger brother to make decisions in my life. Now I know."
That's hilarious.
But once again, he was right. That's all right. I love him.
Yeah, watch the political show. We talk about it. It's pretty funny because I think Schumann brought up, he had the list of the programs that got cut, and he's reading them off. I couldn't believe they were real.
Yeah, you would only hope
this
that
is what they're doing
real.
Down there. This is what our reps are doing. This is the best they can come up with. And
it's unbelievable.
We're sending trillions of dollars to everyone else and not taking care of us.
And again, you would never do it in your business. You couldn't do it, and you couldn't do it in your house. You wouldn't do it in your house. It does not make sense, and that is where I just hope and pray that people can look past, whatever letters behind names and just start to think. Like, and
just
I've
common
seen this done.
sense. Yeah.
Right. I mean, but they'll spit out quotes or policy and ask people, well, what do you think about that? And they think it's from somebody, so they say, no, it's terrible. When it was from somebody else, and it's like, okay, because you're trying to tie it to individuals. Think about the concept, the idea. If people start talking about ideas instead of people, we'll be a lot better off. And when I have teenagers, bro, I sit in cars and my 2 older kids, I'm like, you got like, stop talking about other people. And it's not always bad. It's just, dude, mind your own business, bro. Just take care of yourself, take care of your household. But everybody wants to be an expert on everything.
Oh, I know.
I like the pole vault, real estate, and I'll stick to those 2. I'm no expert, but they're the things I love and I pay pretty close attention to. And I watch the best of the best do it. So I try to follow. Because my mother, my mother's about to have the best year of her career, I think, just because she just loves the industry. She's bringing on newer agents, and she is just passionate about educating and creating opportunities, especially for women. Yeah. There is no glass ceiling outside of lacking inventory right now. But I've just seen so many women thrive in the industry as independents who are just assertive and are fantastic for the marketplace.
Yeah. And that was Schumann and Frank, the other guy. They both say that like they think lobbyists are the biggest problem, and they hope that like they get rid of the lobbyists.
Yeah, well, and that's where like these guys
agendas and
they turn into consultants and everything else, and that's where I go back to. All right, well, what consultant was consulted for these decisions? Like, and nobody wants to take responsibility.
The circumcisions in Kenya.
Yeah, I mean, my wife just posted something about accountability, and I tell you what, man, if there was more accountability and more stewardship all over, we would all be in a better place. I mean, accountability and stewardship. It is actually pretty simple, but it's amazing how people
nobody
get it so
wants to take it.
Yeah, no, man,
nobody will
wild.
Take accountability.
Wow.
All right, we have to thank Dynamic Human Performance, another sponsor run by Andre Dixon, UConn legendary running back. He has a beautiful 5,000 square foot state of the art facility, trains boys and girls of all ages, has classes throughout the day, and he just started a new athletic development program where he will take you with whatever sport you're in, boy or girl, and he will develop you from the ground up to focus on that sport and make you the best you can be. He sent kids to Division I schools, boys and girls, doesn't matter the sport. He is one of the best trainers in Hartford, Connecticut. Go to him. It's dynamichumanperformance.com. We also have Julius Williams. Julius runs the Trench Mob in Decatur, Georgia. I have never seen better offensive and defensive linemen. They go and they do 5v5 tournaments all over the country. He has sent kids to the biggest schools around Florida State, Miami, Georgia, Tennessee, Clemson, you name it, he's got a kid there. Currently, he's working with 55 different kids. The camp that he was at last week, I couldn't believe this. He had an offensive lineman, a kid who didn't play is a senior. And normally they don't let seniors train with them. But this kid, they were wanting to give him an exception. He's a good kid. He did the first tournament, dominated, and he has 4 scholarship offers.
Wow.
And it's March. To me, that's unheard of. So that just shows you the Trench Mob is making a name for themselves all over the country. If you're in Decatur, Georgia, and you want to be the best, Julius and his team are absolutely outstanding. And we also have the Trench Mob podcast we do on Friday nights where we highlight his kids. So if you're there, go to Julius. It's battleofthetrenches.com. He's unbelievable. He's one of the best coaches I've ever seen. And he's got just an incredible team that works with you.
That's all. It's all about the off season, bro.
I was shocked. Yeah. But not for a senior. The kid was a senior who didn't play.
Yeah.
And he did the one camp, and I watched the film with him. And the kid was great. I mean, he dominated in the camp.
That's
and
great.
Just because of that, he got 4 scholarship offers.
Man,
in March.
That's the endorsement you need. I mean, when you can start putting out that type of product, good for him, man. Keep grinding with these kids. And again, I think anybody that's been through it, you want to help these kids have that same opportunity that we all had.
Yeah.
And it's amazing how that just snowballs. And then you get that word of mouth referral, and then you need a 10,000 square foot facility.
Well,
and more people want to be a part of that.
People, because he has such an amazing track record, and he sent kids to major programs. If he recommends someone, they listen.
Yeah,
and
I mean,
he's got and he's honest about everything. And I also credit him because Jamal Lundy has a very good defensive lineman who is going to be a senior next year. He sent me the film. He said, and I told him, I'll call who I know, but we got to get him with Julius. We got to get him to one of these camps. Yeah. So Jamal is going to take him on April 27th. Matt Lawrence, another UConn alum, he has the biggest flag league in Connecticut. But
you were telling me about that. Yeah.
He's running a camp, and they're going to do 5v5. And Julius was like, yeah, you know what? He can come and be with the trench mob for that camp. And I just thought that's so cool to do that because, there's now so many coalitions of groups that train offensive and defensive linemen. They formed a coalition, and, they help each other out. And they all these 5v5 tournaments, it's like basically 7-on-7. You just show up, and it's 1-on-1 offensive and defensive linemen. They do 6 rounds of it. So the fact that, I called Julius and like, hey, Jamal's got a kid. Can you take a look at him? I think he's a Division I FCS guy, maybe a Patriot League, Ivy League type. And Julius watched the film. He's like, yeah, I agree. That's probably where he'd be good at. We got to, can he come with us? I said, well, no, he's in Maryland. We'll get him to a camp, but can he go if he doesn't have a team? He's like, he's got a team. I'll take him on. I'll work with him.
Dude, that's great.
And we'll get him the trench mob gear. He'll be a trench mob guy for a day. I just thought awesome. that was so cool that he did that. So I really liked getting to know him. And that's awesome. I think he's an amazing guy and a great coach.
Dude, anybody willing to help out young people get better where they're at? I mean, I'm on. Yeah. How can we help? You know what I mean? Yeah, that's outstanding, absolutely. Bro. We'll keep driving those people to these places because it makes for a larger network for the future Huskies.
Yeah, no,
you know what I mean? Seriously,
that's the other thing that drives me nuts is they haven't talked to him. I'm like, you have a resource down in Georgia, one of the hotbeds for recruiting, and you're not talking to him?
Listen, I don't understand why we don't get newsletters and things saying, hey, can you tell me your top 10 guys in your area? You think we don't pay attention to our local guys? Do you know what I mean? Well, it's like you might crazy. Get some junk, but if you can pull a handful from reputable guys, I mean, dude, I said we had a great guy in McDowell who's now playing at Penn State. And again, I mean, he was at Penn State, so he's not looking at UConn, but UConn better start competing with schools like Penn State. You better start doing things like that. It's like anything else. Emulate the best doing it and try to follow along, man.
Well, and the resources we have, like with Julius and even Schumann, I mean, he's got top prospects in Jersey and nobody talks to him. It just blows my mind. And I think Julius talked to Kashif Moore about some of his guys. Okay. And Coach Moore wants transfers. He doesn't want to take freshmen.
Right,
and that's the biggest thing. They only signed 12 freshmen and 30 transfers.
Yeah.
So that's just
and there's got to be some. Yeah, there's got to be something there though that they got to lean on that network a little bit more because again, I mean, we want to see UConn get better, and again, it takes people of experience to say, listen, this isn't just about football, the whole experience, but football is gonna be worth going there for the experience and hopefully the success. Because again, I don't care what division you're in, what league you're in, you want to be a part of a winning team. And
Absolutely.
so Mora getting them back to bowl games, I mean, that's a step. But we got to start winning these things. You know what I mean?
Joe D said basically he agrees with Mora's philosophy because you're losing guys. You can't always afford to bring in a big freshman class because it's going to take so much time to develop them.
Yeah.
He said, I would rather have a guy who's a grown man, ready-made, that can step in because you're going to be filling the shoes of a guy who's graduating, who is a man and ready to go. He just thinks that will stop like the rebuilding process as long as you're taking good kids. And that's the one thing I give Burton credit for. They brought in, they've been very good with the transfers they brought in. So I do give them credit for that. They haven't wasted any time.
Yeah.
But Laban, great job. Great to be
always
back
a pleasure, brother. Great to be back with you. I appreciate the adjustment to the evening now that we're coaching track and field 5 days a week. I still want to stick with it. And we'll work
nobody
on
works harder than you.
I don't know about that. I just try to keep up. You know what I mean? I don't ever want to be left behind in the dust. So I got to keep the motor running.
You won't be.
Full tilt, baby. Full tilt. But, and I'm going to see if I can get some of these UConn track guys, especially those that have been successful. I want to get them some exposure and find out kind of a little bit about their story because even they are getting transfers in and things like that. So I'm curious to hear about, how track's going now that we're out of there for a while. But, yeah, man, great to be with you as always.
Send them the link to this show. You can send them a link to Husky Talk so they know that it's kind of real and we got a pretty
we're legit.
Audience. So I think they'd like it.
Yeah.
So for Laban, I'm Steve Cully, the best podcast host in the universe. Remember, when life gives you lemons, don't make lemonade. Just take 2 oranges and throw them back.